Some people walk into your life looking harmless. They speak softly, smile warmly, and never seem to pose a threat. But here's the truth. Machiavelli understood centuries ago, appearances are the weakest measure of a person's power. The most dangerous threats often arrive disguised as friends, helpers, or even harmless bystanders. In this video, we uncover 8 types of people you should never underestimate, the ones whose quiet presence hides sharp strategies. From the wounded soul who weaponizes pity, to the generous giver whose kindness is a chain, each type is a masterclass in subtle power. These are the individuals who don't need a sword to win. They use influence, timing, and human psychology to shift the game in their favor, while you're still thinking it's all just friendly interaction. Machiavelli wrote that men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see, but few can feel. That's why these people win. They let you see what you want to see, while they move silently toward their goal. By the time you realize what's happening, the board is already arranged, and every move you make benefits them. Think of it like petting a sleeping lion. The lion may not move at first, but that doesn't mean it's tame. Every type we discuss in this video has the same trait: patience. They know when to strike, and they know how to make you believe they never will. If you want to protect yourself, you need to see the signs early. That's what this video gives you: the patterns, the behaviors, and the Machiavellian lens you can use to look past charm and straight into intent. Cross swords, your turn. After watching, tell me in the comments, which of these 8 types have you met in real life? How did you spot them, and what happened next? Your story might help someone else recognize the danger before it's too late. Subscribe for more deep strategic breakdowns on human nature, power dynamics, and how to see the game that others are playing. Because in life, as Machiavelli would say, the wise man does at once what the fool does that last. 1. The wounded dove who hides talons. They appear soft, fragile, and deeply misunderstood. They speak of past betrayals, of wounds that still haven't healed. Their story makes you want to protect them. And why 8 types of people you should not see as harmless, like petting a sleeping lion. ETT. Machiavelli warned that pity can be the easiest doorway into manipulation. The one who hides behind constant victimhood can wield your compassion as a weapon. They learn your habits, your blind spots, and your weaknesses, all while making you feel like you're saving them. But beneath the trembling voice and tearful eyes may lie talons, sharp and ready. These people don't attack directly. They simply orchestrate situations where you take the blow for them. Their advantage is that no one suspects them. Even when their schemes come to light, others will still defend them because they couldn't possibly mean harm. Machiavelli understood that reputation is often more powerful than truth. Once someone has convinced the world of their innocence, their hands are free to move unseen. The danger is not in their visible actions, but in how they create an environment where you do their bidding willingly. You will defend them, make sacrifices for them, and even destroy your own standing for their sake, all without realizing they've been guiding your steps. They are not powerless, they are patient. And patience, as Machiavelli knew, is often more dangerous than raw force. The wounded dove type thrives because they know one crucial truth: suspicion rarely falls on those who appear to lack the means to harm. They can make cutting moves without ever being accused of making them. In chess, this is like sacrificing a pawn to set up a devastating checkmate later. The pawn was never harmless, it was bait. When you meet this person, do not be deceived by the gentle exterior. The more harmless they appear, the more you should watch their positioning. Machiavelli would remind you, mercy is a noble virtue, but only if you're certain the recipient won't use it to destroy you. 2. The clown who watches closely. They make you laugh. They're always self-deprecating, always acting as though they're too foolish to be taken seriously. And while everyone else underestimates them, they observe. The harmless clown archetype can be one of the most dangerous, precisely because you forget they're even in the game. Machiavelli often spoke of disarming others by appearing weak or incapable. The clown is a master of this art. They turn every sharp comment into a joke, every probing question into just teasing. But behind that humor is a constant calculation. They are mapping your insecurities, your ambitions, and your loyalties. And when the time comes, they can weaponize that knowledge in ways you never saw coming. A dangerous clown doesn't compete openly. Instead, they set traps for others and watch from the sidelines as the pieces fall. They know how to hide a dagger behind a laugh, not literally, but socially. They can sway opinion in subtle ways, framing you as overreactive or unstable, simply because you didn't play along with their harmless jokes. The brilliance of this persona is that when they finally make their move, it still doesn't look like a move. If you retaliate, you look like the aggressor. This is pure Machiavelli creating conditions where your opponent destroys themselves by acting too soon. So next time you're around someone who constantly plays the fool, remember, in politics, business, and life, the most underestimated person often has the clearest view of the battlefield. 3. The humble servant who collects secrets. They never try to be the center of attention. In fact, they actively avoid it. They're the one who brings the coffee, takes notes in meetings, and remembers small details about everyone's life. This humility seems pure, even admirable. But Machiavelli knew that those who position themselves close to power without competing for it often have the most influence of all. This type gathers information without arousing suspicion. They hear the private complaints, see the emotional weaknesses, and notice every minor crack in the walls people build around themselves. They don't need to speak much. People pour their hearts out to them precisely because they seem safe. But here's the danger. Every secret is a bargaining chip. Over time, they can build an arsenal of information that allows them to nudge events in their favor. And because they appear selfless, no one questions their motives until it's far too late. Machiavelli wrote that a ruler must know not only how to act, but how to appear, and the humble servant persona is the perfect disguise. They let others rise and fall, while ensuring they always remain close to the next seat of power. Never assume that lack of ambition means lack of strategy. Sometimes the most patient observer is simply waiting for the right moment to step out of the shadows when the throne is empty and no one else is prepared to claim it. 4. The friend who mirrors you. They agree with your opinions, share your tastes, and seem to see the world exactly as you do. It feels like fate finally. Someone who truly understands you. But as Machiavelli might warn, total agreement can be a calculated trap. The person who mirrors you is not necessarily a friend. They may be positioning themselves as your shadow so they can eventually take your place. When someone mirrors too perfectly, they are learning how to become you. They absorb your mannerisms, your contacts, your strategies, all under the guise of closeness. You let your guard down because you see no competition in them after all. They want the same things you do. This type of mimicry creates an illusion of trust while steadily eroding your uniqueness. By the time you realize it, they've replicated your network, your skills, and even your reputation. And because they've mirrored your behavior so closely, others see them as a natural alternative to you. Machiavelli understood that replacing a leader often requires becoming them in the public eye before making a move. The mirror friend accomplishes this not through open rivalry, but through strategic imitation. Be wary of those who seem to agree with you on everything. Disagreement, handled respectfully, is a sign of authenticity. Perfect harmony, however, may be a silent rehearsal for replacing you. 5. The apologetic offender. They hurt you and then immediately apologize. They didn't mean it, they weren't thinking, and they feel so bad about it. At first, this seems like accountability. But Machiavelli would note that constant apology without change is not repentance, it's strategy. The apologetic offender tests boundaries in small increments. They offend, watch your reaction, then use an apology to reset the emotional balance. Over time, they learn exactly how far they can push you before you break. Each apology buys them more freedom to act without consequence. This creates a cycle where you become more forgiving and they become bolder. You start excusing behavior that, in any other context, you would never tolerate. This is not harmless, it's conditioning. The brilliance of this tactic is that outsiders see only the apologies, not the accumulation of offenses. You appear overly sensitive if you react strongly, because at least they said sorry. Machiavelli understood that perception often matters more than reality. The offender has crafted a perception of remorse while continuing their agenda unhindered. In truth, the most dangerous harm often comes not from the enemies who never apologize, but from the friends who apologize without ever stopping the behavior. 6. The passive-aggressive peacemaker. They never raise their voice, never confront directly, and always frame themselves as wanting peace. Yet somehow, conflict follows them everywhere. The passive-aggressive peacemaker is a master of indirect warfare. Machiavelli often spoke of using others to fight your battles. This is that principle in social form. Instead of attacking you openly, they make vague comments, accidentally omit important information, or phrase criticism as a compliment. The result is that you're constantly on the defensive without being able to name the offense. They can make you doubt yourself, eroding your confidence slowly over time. And because they claim to hate drama, they appear above the fray, even as they fuel it from behind the curtain. This is political maneuvering at its finest, appearing virtuous while manipulating events to your advantage. The passive-aggressive peacemaker thrives because they never leave fingerprints. Any accusation you make will sound paranoid, which isolates you further. Machiavelli would recognize this as the ideal covert strategy: harm without visibility. If you ever feel consistently undermined by someone who insists they just want everyone to get along, pay closer attention. Their version of peace may be nothing more than your submission. 7. The generous giver with strings. They give freely gifts, opportunities, introductions. At first, it feels like kindness. But as Machiavelli warned, generosity can be a chain. Every gift is a silent contract, and when the time comes, they will collect. This person builds a network of obligations. You accept their help, and suddenly you feel indebted. Even if they never say it outright, you know you owe them. That sense of debt can be more controlling than any open demand. The giver's real power is not in the gift itself, but in the social pressure it creates. To refuse them later feels like betrayal, even if their request goes against your best interest. Machiavelli would call this creating dependency, ensuring that others cannot act freely without your permission. What makes this dangerous is that generosity builds public goodwill. If you resist their influence, others will see you as ungrateful, not them as manipulative. They've crafted a shield out of their own giving. True generosity asks for nothing in return. But when kindness comes with invisible strings, you're not receiving a gift, you're accepting a leash. 8. The quiet strategist who never forgets. They're not loud, not reactive, and not quick to show emotion. When wronged, they don't argue, they simply nod and move on. And yet, Machiavelli would tell you this is often the most dangerous person in the room. The quiet strategist records every slight, every insult, every power shift. They store it like a ledger, waiting for the right time to act. Because they're so calm, they're easy to overlook. Others think their lack of immediate reaction means they've moved on. But they haven't. They are simply building the perfect plan, one that strikes with maximum impact when you least expect it. This type understands that revenge served cold is not just a saying, it's a method. Time allows for the gathering of allies, the study of weaknesses, and the removal of obstacles. By the time they move, you have no defenses left. Machiavelli often wrote about the advantage of patience in politics. The quiet strategist embodies this principle. While others waste energy in open conflict, they conserve theirs for a single decisive blow. Underestimating them is the first step toward losing to them. Never mistake silence for submission. Sometimes it's the sound of someone sharpening their blade. Conclusion. So, what's the lesson in all of this? We live in a world where danger doesn't always arrive wearing armor and carrying a sword. More often, it walks in quietly, wearing a smile, a soft voice, and the face of friendship. Machiavelli understood this better than most, that power is not just taken by force, but by subtle positioning, patience, and perception. The wounded dove teaches us that pity can be a weapon sharper than steel. The harmless clown shows that laughter can disarm while quietly disarming you. The humble servant reminds us that proximity to power without open ambition can be the deadliest position of all. And the mirror friend proves that someone can replace you by first becoming you. Then there's the apologetic offender who trains you to accept more harm each time. The passive-aggressive peacemaker who wages silent wars while looking like a saint. The generous giver whose gifts are golden chains. And the quiet strategist who never forgets, never forgives, and never warns you before they move. These people thrive because the world underestimates them. Their tools are not swords or armies, but influence, manipulation, timing, and human psychology. And here's the cruel truth: they often win because they play the long game while everyone else is distracted by the short one. If there's a Machiavellian truth worth remembering here, it's this: never judge power by its volume. The loud threat is easy to spot. The quiet one is easy to miss. The people you see as harmless are sometimes the ones arranging the board so that every move you make benefits them. This isn't a call to paranoia, it's a call to awareness. You don't have to treat everyone as an enemy, but you must learn to see beyond appearances. Mercy, trust, and generosity are powerful virtues, but they should be given with eyes wide open. In the end, the most dangerous blade is the one you never see until it's already at your throat. As Machiavelli might whisper if he were here now, it is better to be cautious with a friend than careless with an enemy.